What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with Tech Daily, and in this video, we'll be comparing the Samsung Galaxy S22 Ultra to the iPhone 13 Pro. Now, it's always somewhat challenging to do a comparison like this because so much about these two devices is subjective. iOS versus Android, Apple's ecosystem versus Samsung's. People have different preferences, to say the least, but there are absolutely some aspects of these two phones that are very much objective. Certain specs, for example, some features, capabilities, and add-ons, things that one phone has that the other simply does not, or that one does better than the other. And those things could be a major deciding factor in a purchase decision. So I'm going to break down everything you need to know about these two phones. I'll try to be as objective as possible with the comparison, just give you the straightforward specs and features. And while I'll certainly declare a winner in most categories we cover, I definitely want to know which device you'd prefer as well. And let me know what term you think makes more sense for these phones, Ultra or Pro, which is better. Before we get into it here though, I do just want to take a quick second to thank the folks at Taurus for sponsoring this video and for hooking me up with a fresh new screen protector, which I know you guys will be happy to finally see. Taurus is most widely known for making some awesome and affordable phone cases, but now they're jumping into the screen protector game with the new Snapeel screen protectors. Obviously, my current iPhone screen protector not only isn't even for this iPhone, but it's cracked and used up, and I'm tired of you guys roasting me about it. Unfortunately, applying this new Snapeel screen protector is super quick and very easy. You get everything you need inside the package, including this kind of plastic frame or guide, and this helps you ensure the screen protector lands perfectly center right on the phone when you apply it. The screen protector itself is a peel and stick deal. It drops right on the phone. You can take your finger to stick it down into place or use the included tool here to do that. And after literally 60 seconds, it's all done and came out perfectly. Not only is the fit absolutely precise, it's also centered just right, and there's not a single bubble or speck of dust that wound up underneath it. And it's a really high quality piece of glass too. It feels as good as the phone glass. It's smooth, it's not overly glossy. And get this, these screen protectors are reusable. So if you mess up the install, like accidentally drop it or get a bunch of dust or dirt on it, you can clean it off, still stick it on the phone just fine, and it'll wind up perfectly fine a second time. Taurus has made some fantastic products over the years. Their cases are great, and I'm happy to have their new screen protector on my iPhone now too. Check out the new Taurus Snapeel screen protectors in the link in the video description, and thanks so much again to Taurus for sponsoring this video. So to start things off, let's talk about size and design. The S22 Ultra is a massive phone, 6.8 inches. And compared to the regular iPhone 13 Pro at 6.1, you're really just getting a totally different experience. I suppose a more fair comparison would be the iPhone 13 Pro Max. That phone is 6.7 inches. This is just a dummy unit, by the way, so you can get an idea. But the S22 Ultra is still noticeably bigger than that. And that's one of the perks of the Ultra. It's one of the largest devices you can buy just in general. So if you want a big screen or a big phone, this is the phone for you. The S22 Ultra also utilizes every inch of screen real estate. There's a center hole punch selfie camera versus the iPhone's big notch, barely noticeable bezels all around, paired with curved sides that extend the display just a little bit more. Altogether, you get greater than a 90% screen to body ratio on the Ultra compared to about 86% on the iPhone. The Ultra, to me, just offers that seamless, distraction-free screen with a much more modern design. When it comes to the materials, both these phones are made from a combination of polished metal and frosted glass. The S22's frame is aluminum, the iPhone's is stainless steel, Samsung uses Gorilla Glass Victus Plus, Apple incorporates their ceramic shield and Gorilla Glass combo. Side by side, both these phones look premium, of course, and for the price you pay, I think that's a must. The only other big difference with the form factors is just the fact that the S22 Ultra is very much a curvy, rounded phone on the edges and flat and sharp on the top and bottom. The iPhone is flat and even all around, and to me is a bit more comfortable and practical. The Ultra's curved display isn't really for everyone, and the super sharp rectangular look is very much unique to this device. In the hand, both these phones feel very different, and I think it's just a matter of personal preference as to what works best. Just note that they are obviously very different. And taking a quick look around at everything else, both these phones have their usual volume and power buttons just on different sides, the speaker down below, USB-C port on the Ultra, Lightning port on the iPhone, SIM card trays, and obviously the S22 Ultra's built-in S Pen, kind of the whole reason to consider this phone, and something that very much sets separates it from the iPhone. The built-in S Pen is absolutely the standout feature on the S22 Ultra this year, and paired with a dozen or so apps and features that utilize it, it gives you a unique experience that can't be compared with the iPhone, or almost any other Android device for that matter. From using the S Pen to navigate through the phone, to writing notes, drawing pictures, translating text, editing documents on the go, or creating personalized messages, the S Pen really opens up a world of possibilities. It's also important to note that the S Pen is a smart connected device. It's Bluetooth enabled and has a button of its own for gestures and using it as a shutter button for pictures and other things, and it delivers a seamless writing experience with incredibly low latency. It was made for this phone, and in turn the phone was made for it. You might be able to get a cheap add-on stylus for an iPhone or a different Android device somewhere. The S Pen, by the way, doesn't work on the iPhone, but it just isn't going to be the same experience at all. In fact, if you want any kind of iOS/stylus experience, you have to opt for an iPad and the Apple Pencil. There's no compact mobile-friendly setup from Apple. I realize this feature comparison is a little unfair, since the S22 Ultra's main thing is its S Pen, and there's never been a stylus-compatible iPhone. But that's kind of the whole point. If you want a seamless writing experience and tons of stylus-specific features for your mobile device, the S22 Ultra is one of your few options. Apple doesn't have any options at all, and people will be picking this phone specifically for that. Now, I know I already kind of talked about the displays, at least the size and design, but let's dive deeper now into the specs and viewing experience, because there are quite a few important differences here too. For starters, the S22 Ultra offers a maximum resolution of 3088 by 1440 for around 500 pixels per inch. The iPhone 13 Pro's display is a 2532 by 1170 resolution, or about 460 pixels per inch. So comparatively, the Ultra is a bit sharper. And if you want to save battery life, you do have the option of changing the resolution to something lower. The iPhone doesn't have that option. Both screens are technically OLED. The Ultra is a dynamic AMOLED 2X panel. The iPhone is Apple's own Super Retina XDR. And side by side, they honestly look pretty similar. But the default color profile on the Ultra is no doubt a bit more vibrant and saturated. And again, if you want to adjust that, you can. What you see is what you get on the iPhone though. They're both 120 Hz displays with adaptive refresh rates, and each one delivers an incredibly smooth and very responsive feel. Not anything new for Samsung really, but a first for the iPhone this time around. And as far as their max brightness, technically, the S22 Ultra can reach 1750 nits. The iPhone maxes out at 1200. But indoors, using max brightnesses on both and brightness boost on the S22, to me, it is the iPhone, for whatever reason, that looks a bit brighter, even though its apparent specs say otherwise. I think both these phones do deliver excellent viewing experiences though for all kinds of content, but the bottom line is, spec-wise, the S22 Ultra has the overall edge. And considering the options and tweaks you have to adjust the display as well, that adds even more. From the size to the resolution, color, and brightness, to me, the S22 Ultra is the clear winner when it comes to the display. Also, one more thing to add. Underneath the display, the S22 of course hides its ultrasonic fingerprint sensor for unlocking. It's fast, it's accurate, it's great to have. And the iPhone, of course, hasn't had a fingerprint sensor for years now. Face ID is the only biometric unlocking option, and while it's plenty good in its own right, it's not a quick or convenient unlocking method. And the S22's Face Unlock can automatically get you into the home screen without needing to swipe. So some different approaches here, I think, but a lot of people will definitely appreciate the fingerprint sensor on the S22 Ultra. When it comes to the out loud listening experience, both phones offer dual speaker setups for stereo sound. There's one down below near the charge ports and the secondary one in the earpiece. To me, the iPhone does sound more full and more clear. The S22 Ultra kind of has a tinny and distorted sound at max volume by comparison, though the iPhone is my preference for the speakers, but here's a sound sample so you can decide for yourself. One of the most challenging things to compare on these two phones is performance, and that's because there are a number of elements that are different, but not necessarily better or worse. For example, the S22 Ultra has the newest top-tier processor, the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, or Samsung's own Exynos 2200 if you're outside the US. The iPhone, of course, is powered by Apple's own latest top-tier A15 Bionic chipset, and the only way we can compare those chipsets to get some sort of foundation is with a benchmark test. So here are the raw numbers from Geekbench, and you can actually see the iPhone holds a clear advantage when it comes to both the single and multi-core processing scores. On the flip side, the iPhone packs just 6 gigs of RAM, The S22 Ultra has 8 gigs to start and can be spec'd up to 12 if you want it. So potentially that could cause a theoretical performance gap, but we're also comparing apples to oranges here with the OSs, iOS versus Android. And the overall experience with just about everything is vastly different. Apps open and run differently, everything is optimized in a unique way made for the respective phones. Things are just different. So it's tough to compare, even the day-to-day experiences with the apps and things. But if you want just a straight-up speed test with some games and graphics-heavy stuff, here you go. Obviously, these phones are the latest and greatest top-spec devices in their class, so they're gonna be about as fast as can be either way. And I've found that depending on the app or the game, sometimes the Ultra will load things first, and sometimes the iPhone gets ahead. Like I said, apps are just different on iOS versus Android. They load differently, they sometimes play differently, so it's super tough to compare. I personally don't think either phone has a clear advantage with speeds or performance or in-game experience, and it's more so just going to come down to what you personally prefer. But I will say this. Over the long run, you are likely going to get more major software updates with the iPhone. Probably 6 or 7 years, maybe even more of iOS support. The S22 Ultra will likely get 4 full Android updates, but as far as long-term support, the iPhone absolutely has the edge here. And of course, each ecosystem has its own advantages too. Whether that be Samsung or Android specific, Apple or iOS specific, there's pros and cons with each. I personally just don't find the specs and performance to be a real deciding factor considering everything else with these two phones. But maybe you feel differently, so let me know in the comments down below. When it comes to the battery and charging features, on the one hand, the specs really paint a pretty clear picture. The S22 Ultra packs a huge 5,000 mAh battery inside, while the iPhone 13 Pro has just a 3,095 mAh battery. For charging speeds, Samsung offers 45-watt wired fast charging. Apple supports up to about 23 watts. They both have the same 15-watt wireless charging support, but there are a couple of unique features each. Samsung has the reverse wireless charging feature, which lets you power up other devices with the phone. Apple offers MagSafe as a half charging, half accessory sort of setup. In the end though, it really comes down to personal, everyday usage. And to be honest, in my time using these phones, it is actually the S22 Ultra that tends to end up with more battery at the end of the day compared to the iPhone. And to me, that does make sense. As well optimized as each one of these phones are, and even with their differences, the S22 Ultra just offers a bigger battery capacity to start. And with some tweaking, like bumping down the refresh rate and screen resolution, you can absolutely make this phone last all day and then some. Finally, let's talk cameras. Now, this is really best for a totally separate dedicated video, but I want to just give you a broad overview and offer some general thoughts. Spec-wise, the S22 Ultra's main lens is a crazy 108 megapixel shooter. You also have a 10 megapixel periscope telephoto lens, another 10 megapixel telephoto lens, and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide lens. That's quite the setup. The iPhone has a triple lens setup consisting of a 12 megapixel main lens, 12 megapixel telephoto lens, and 12 megapixel ultra-wide. With the selfie cameras, the Ultra has another advantage here, a 40 megapixel shooter versus another 12 megapixel lens on the iPhone. Now, inside the camera apps, I consider the S22 Ultra to have a much wider array of features, shooting modes, and settings compared to the iPhone, and a handful of additional capabilities as well, like its 100 times super zoom, for example. On the other hand, the iPhone has some of its own unique shooting modes and features, like the portrait filters, ProRes, and cinematic mode. Now, when it comes to deciding which setup is better, I think it really comes down to what your shooting needs are and what you personally value. Like I said, I think Samsung delivers a more robust, more feature-packed, and over-the-top kind of setup, while the iPhone is a bit more straightforward with enough pro features to still make the most of it. In practice, of course, these phones are going to deliver very different end results. The S22 Ultra tends to be very punchy, very colorful and saturated, with plenty of detail. The iPhone produces a more neutral, realistic looking shot with, I think, even more detail. They're both top-tier camera setups in their own right, the best you can buy right now. And it's tough to say which is truly better, but I'll say they're very different for different people and different shooting needs. I realize that's not a great answer, but look out for a dedicated camera comparison between these two phones soon for a better side-by-side view. There's really way more to go over than I could in this one video. So overall, which phone is better? Well, I think objectively, spec-wise, feature-wise, the S22 Ultra is the better device, measurably. It has a better display, technically better internal specs, a better camera, the S Pen, which the iPhone doesn't offer at all, but it really comes down to what you personally value. If you value iOS, specifically Apple's ecosystem, then it doesn't really matter what the S22 Ultra offers, but if you want the most powerful, most feature-packed, most spec'd phone on the market right now, it's gonna be the S22 Ultra. But what do you guys think? Which phone would you prefer? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know your thoughts, of course. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though. Be sure to follow Tech Daily on Twitter and subscribe to the Tech Daily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.